we're going to be doing a little bit of a case study on one of my favorite artists, Jack Stauber. This is Jack Stauber's High Low, and this is Jack Stauber's Pop Food. I've been a fan of Jack Stauber for about 6 or 7 years, and I think everything that he's created and his entire world and the way that he creates and makes his own content is something that really should be studied and understood because it's just spectacular. From the way that he interweaves themes of death, of growth, of just everything that he's felt throughout his childhood and as an adult. I think that Jack is definitely one of the most talented people and creators of my generation. I think he's around like 28, 27. And I really appreciate and love his style. I want to talk about what it means to create something new and what it means to separate yourself from the pack. Whenever you're going to create something or whenever you're going to try something new, there's going to be a lot of bumps and blocks and road barriers throughout the road to your success. I think the best way to overcome and deal with any sort of issue or anything that you're dealing with is by talking about it and by being honest with yourself. So I know that Jack Stauber is maybe not the best example of this because I'm not sure what he felt during his creativity process or how he felt, from fans or people who say things to him and, how his entire personality is. This is just all conjecture, what I think, right? So if you didn't know, Jack Stauber hasn't been in the public eye for the past 2 years. He's been mainly focusing on his Patreon, posting music there behind a paywall subscription. And although he still creates stuff, he creates things on a much smaller scale and just for the people who are willing to pay money, right? If you go to the average Jack Stauber fan, they're probably going to be a fervent, almost worshiper of him. And that's a little bit scary. I definitely do not lie within that kind of field. There are definitely people who take everything what he says and everything that he's created very literally. And, they find a lot of meaning in every single thing that he's created. And he's like a god to them. And I just don't subscribe to that or believe that in general. He's just a dude. He's just a dude who makes and creates stuff. But nevertheless, I think that Jack Stauber is a perfect example of somebody who had a vision, who had a lot of people detracting from him, but still was able to create the exact and perfect world that he wanted by continuously doing what he wanted to do and by just not interacting with the people who were causing him harm and just stepping away from the entire situation in general. Jack Stauber was creating consistently for probably longer than, we've all been on the internet. I mean, there's videos of his dating back 15, 12 years that I've seen, and it's just really interesting to see that this guy has been at it for so long, and he's definitely had to deal with and had to grow up with a lot of the pressures and a lot of the issues that come with dealing with creating something that's different. When you're creating something for the first time and you're doing something or anything that's different, people are going to question you and ask, why the hell are you doing it? I'm certain that Jack's, he talks about this in some of his songs. Jack's parents, Jack's just entire social circle around him, they all one time or another told him either get a real job or just to not do what he was doing because obviously the stuff that he creates is a little bit weird, but it's still cool and it's still very interesting. Nevertheless, I want to talk about how you can overcome that feeling of not being able to create and produce what you want because you feel like it's weird or you feel like it's something that's not even worth being put out. If you have financial support, if you have a family that loves you, and if you have a voice, then you have every right to share and tell people and explain to people what is going on with your life. If your health, wealth, and relationships are set, then you can create and do whatever you want so long as it doesn't harm other people, right? So let's take that concept and let's apply it to something in the business world, right? A lot of people are too afraid to start their startup, to start their business, or to just even give things a shot. And I think that fear comes from the fear of failure and the fear of not being able to really look at yourself and ask yourself what you want. Jack Stauber and a lot of creators like him probably know exactly what they wanted, and what they wanted was to create and just make the stuff that they wanted to make. He has done a lot of work with Adult Swim. He has created music. He has created videos. He's done everything he wants, and guess what? He pulled back from everything and just went to his Patreon and is now with his own community and with his own people. I think there's so much things that you could pull out of that, and there's obviously a lot more lore and things you could talk about, but if you really boil it down, Jack is the quintessential type of person that I think that you should want to be, right? Jack is able to create and show his vision to people and spread his message and spread whatever he wants to say. He was put in a position where he had to make a decision of continuously like uploading and having to deal with the expectation of his fans who are pretty rabid and pretty crazy for him, or he could pull back, work on his own things, just have his own time and do what he wants to do and just separate himself from all of the crap that isn't necessary, right? So he did that. He decided to go on the path of creating his own Patreon, creating his own ecosystem, creating his own way of being able to create the things he wanted to create without having to rely on a bunch of people that, may not actually have what's best for him in mind. So when you are in a situation when you're creating something or wanting to create something and you want to get to a higher level or get better at it, I think the first thing that you could really focus on is just getting to the best level that you could possibly be. Just keep creating stuff, keep making things, and keep making things that make you proud and make you happy. Every single time you post something, every single time you write something, you put something into the world, you should ask yourself if you actually are satisfied with the level of production, creativity, or effort you put into that piece of media, whatever it may be. If you are okay with it being at a certain level, and if you are okay with, knowing that you did the best that you could, then it's completely fine. But I think that if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not trying new things, if you're not evolving and getting better at what you want to do, then you get stuck, and then you get stuck trying to meet the expectations of other people. This happens a lot in business. It's the issue where you have customers that are trying to get you to do exactly what they want you to do and are asking you for all these custom things and just wasting your time and making you stress for something that they are doing, when in reality you should just be focusing on what makes you best and what makes your product the best and how you can improve and get your product to a level where it should be. There's this principle called the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the results come from 80% of the effort. At least I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure. Yes. So with the 80-20 rule, I think that it's important to determine what 20% of things are actually the things causing the results of your success, right? If you have something that's working in your brand or in your company and it's 20% of it is successful, then just work on that 20%. Forget about the other 80%. Just focus on that 20%. You can even cancel those freaking customers, those orders. Do whatever you can to just separate yourself from those 80% that's causing you stress, and you can just focus on that. Jack did exactly that with his creations. Obviously, if Jack continued to post videos and create music and work with big companies like Adult Swim and things like that, he obviously could have been making more money, could have had more fame, notoriety, whatever. But he focused on the 20%, and the 20% for him was just making content and making things for himself and for the fans that were willing to pay enough to get access to his Patreon. I think that's something that more artists and more creatives should do, because creating things is very difficult. And creating things that work, creating things that are consistently good is even more difficult. So that's why people reuse a lot of their content, reuse a lot of the things that they already created. Like the best authors and the best playwrights in the world, they shouldn't have to write a new play every single time they want to do a show. They continuously hone, they continuously improve, they focus on that 20%, they cut out the fat, and they make the things that they want to make, and the best version of the things that they want to make. The thesis of this video is essentially to take what you love doing and to turn it into something that makes you profit by focusing on what makes that thing the best thing possible. So if you love something, if you love doing something, there's always a way to combine what you love with some sort of other facet in your life. We are such complex humans and such complex animals that there is a million different ways to become successful. There's a million different ways to create something. There's a million different ways to just be yourself and be you. So don't take other people's advice. Don't take the advice of people who are detracting you or putting you down or making you feel like what you're creating or what you're doing isn't worth pursuing. Because if you get satisfaction from it, and if you know and you believe that you're going to be able to find success from it, then you just got to keep doing it and keep getting better at it. Do not be complacent. Do not accept the level and standard that somebody else would accept. Do not feel like you have to play into the wants and the needs of an audience. You are your own person. You have a soul and you have a mentality and mindset that cannot be changed. You only feel the things that you feel. So whenever you're faced with an issue or something that you know might take more effort, it might be a little bit more difficult to do, if you're not stepping up to the plate and doing the thing that you actually need to do or want to do, you are kind of failing yourself. And I refuse to fail myself, and you should too. Because I know if you're watching this video, you definitely want to improve, you definitely want to change your lifestyle, and you definitely feel motivated to achieve something in life. So keep doing that. Keep improving, and keep making weird shit. Because if Jack Stauber, a guy from Philadelphia who makes weird videos about, I don't know, teeth and death and does it all in a weird animated VHS style, can find success and become one of the best and most creative people of my generation, I think that you can do it too, and you can also become successful while you're at it. This is Matt from The Alive Company. I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching. Check out this video if you want to learn more about my CD collection and just a little bit about me. Peace!